Jason hears heavy footsteps. I think the other guys are coming down for a drink now. Mrs. Randall sniffs and rolls her eyes. Glenn sticks his head in the bar and double takes when he sees Mrs. Randall. Hello, Mrs. R. Right, who's having what? The rest of them file into the bar. Mark looks at his phone and wonders whether to turn it on. Does he need any more grief from the Pill Queen? He thinks for a minute, then bites the bullet. He rolls his eyes as the display flashes that he's got 7 missed calls, 5 text messages and a voicemail. He's about to switch the phone off again when curiosity takes over. He checks the message screen and is surprised to see that all the messages are from Sarah. He plays the voicemail message feeling slightly concerned that there might be some more bother with her husband. As he listens to the message, his mouth drops open. What is it? asks Glenn. Mark holds his hands up for silence. Listen, boys, he says, switching on the speakerphone and replaying the message. Listen to this. Mark, listen, you're in serious trouble. Very serious trouble. Last night the son of the mafia boss was put in a coma by the blokes you're up here with. The mob are looking everywhere for you. You've got to leave town immediately. I work in a casino on the seafront. It's owned by a bloke called Harry Clipstone. He's mob. His son Reese was beaten up outside the Electric Mile in the early hours of this morning. The mob have got pictures of you all from the CCTV in the Electric Mile. They have some very nasty people looking for you. They saw me dancing with you on CCTV, and I was given the 3rd degree this afternoon. I was beaten with a belt to jog my memory. The only thing I could remember was the name of the guest house you were staying in, New Roses. They know where it is. They know the owner, and they're going to send some people there. You've got to leave town now. I knew something like this was going to happen, said Jason, his eyes blazing. He looked dead. Pilchard grabs the front of Jason's shirt. Don't fucking say the word dead again, okay? Glenn pushes Pilchard away. Let go of him. He claps his hands together and smiles, trying to hide his panic. Here's what we do, guys. We go upstairs now and pack our stuff very quickly and check out of the hotel. Glenn walks over to Mrs. Randall, who has been watching them with great suspicion from behind the bar. Something has cropped up and we'll be checking out in a minute. Can you please prepare our bill? We've received some bad news from home and need to leave urgently. Can we have our bill in about 10 minutes? Yeah, boy, yeah, but before I got to check the damage to the rooms. Okay, give us 10 minutes and then come up. He smiles and goes back over to the others. Let's do this. Phil has never felt pleasure like this before. He looks down at Honey's face. He's never had his dick sucked so hard before. He looks at her naked body, the curve of her back, her shapely bottom. He closes his eyes and cries out, "Oh my God, that feels so good." To his horror, the door opens, and Glenn, Mark, Pilchard and Crockett rush in. "What the fuck? Get out of here!" screams Phil. Mark tries not to see anything but accidentally sees Phil's erection. "Dude!" he says, looking away. Phil covers his rapidly deflating member. He looks at Honey and shakes his head in disbelief, but she doesn't look that bothered by their interruption. Glenn frantically throws his clothes into a bag. "Sorry, mate, but we've got to get out of here now." "Why?" Glenn looks at Honey. I'll tell you in the van. Get packed, mate, quick as you can." Phil turns to her. "Sorry about this. That was great, by the way." She smiles at him and starts getting dressed. Despite their panic, they can't fail to take in her glorious naked form. "How are we going to get Honey out of here without Mrs. Randall finding out?" says Phil. Glenn shrugs his shoulders. It doesn't matter anymore. Mrs. Randall opens the front door to the 3 men, her mouth dropping open. "Oliver?" He smiles. "Hello, Mum. Long time no see." She stumbles back, shocked, and tries to shut the door. He grabs the door handle. "No, Mum, I've changed. I don't work for Harry Clipstone anymore. I quit. No more of that life for me." "You're not bloody telling the truth. You told me all that before. Then I find gun in my pantry." She lurches towards him and pushes him. You go now. You're no bloody good, Oliver. I don't want to see you." He smiles, then grabs her hair and drags her screaming into the guest house. Solace flinches. "That's your mum, Oliver. You can't." Hampton spins round to face him, his expression silencing any further comment. The couple leaving their room upstairs freeze. The man pushes his wife back into the room and gently closes the door. He puts his finger on his lips for silence and pulls out his phone. He walks back into the bathroom and closes the door. Please, it's an emergency." Ryan has never felt so scared in all of his life. Those dumb motherfuckers. The fucking underworld. We're innocent. We didn't lay a finger on that Reese kid. It was Glenn and Pilchard. Shit. When it happened, me and Mark were around that nutty bird's house. As I said to Paul earlier, says Jason, I appreciate that they saved me from being badly beaten up, but you can't inflict that level of violence on a human being and expect them to be okay afterwards. It's not like in a cartoon. There's a knock on the door. They freeze, looking at each other terrified. It's Glenn. Open up. Relieved, Ryan opens the door. Glenn sticks his head in the room. Come on, we're leaving. He looks at Jason and heads downstairs. They all follow him into the reception area, struggling with their bags. Mrs. Randall is nowhere to be seen. What the fuck's going on anyway, says Phil angrily as Honey waves and slips out the door. Mark plays him the message. Phil looks at Pilchard and Glenn. You stupid twats, he says, slowly, unable to take it in. Suddenly, the enormity of their actions hits home. I'm fucking getting married next week, and now we've got the fucking heavy mob after us. All eyes are on Glenn and Pilchard, who glare back. We didn't mean for this to happen, pleads Pilchard, trying to keep his cool. The bloke was going to do Jason over. We stopped him. This is insane, says Phil. You're way over the limit to drive, and it's 200 plus miles. He rubs his tired eyes, thinking of the hell that will be released when Julie finds out about this. Funnily enough, this shock has sobered me right up, bruv, says Pilchard, trying in vain to inject some humour. Where is she, says Glenn, walking into the bar. 3 men are standing at the bar. They turn to look at him. Something is wrong. Very wrong. The air is sucked out of the room as the largest of them takes a step towards Glenn. The doorbell rings. Run, shouts Glenn, tipping the table over into their path. Go the back way. Glenn charges down the corridor towards Mrs. Randall's private quarters, hoping that the door isn't locked. The others follow close behind. He sees her body lying on the floor. They rush past her and through the kitchen door into the cold night air, stumbling through the darkness terrified. There is an intense flash as they're blinded by a security light. Mark realises that the back gate is padlocked. Throw your bags over the fence. We've got to jump it. He effortlessly bounds over the 6-foot wooden fence. They all frantically try and scale the fence while hurling their bags over the top. As Marcus goes over, he looks over his shoulder to see 3 goons running towards them. Fat Dave and Jason are still within reach of the goons. As the goons get to the fence, Hampton grabs Jason's leg but loses his grip and bumps into Solis. Jason scrambles over the fence, falling hard onto the ground, onto the other side. Fat Dave is halfway over the fence when Lamoureux yanks his legs. Dave screams, holding onto the top of the fence for dear life. Dave! Shouts Ryan. Glenn and Phil try and hoist Dave over the fence. He screams and disappears from view. He's punched and kicked by Solis and Lamoureux. Hampton tries to get over the fence, silhouetted by the security light. Glenn punches him in the face, knocking him back onto the garden. Have that, you twat. Solis tries to get over and is attacked by Pilchard and Mark. Hampton starts kicking the gate, which doesn't look like it's going to hold for long. A dog starts barking noisily in an adjacent garden. Ryan has never been so frightened in all of his life. He picks up his bag and stands well clear of the fence. Glenn turns to Pilchard. Get the van. Pilchard rummages through his pockets. I can't find the keys. Glenn throws another punch at Solis. Yes, you fucking can. Pilchard checks his back pocket and holds the keys aloft with a stupid expression on his face. Glenn pushes him hard. Get the fucking van. Bring it round the front. Big holes are appearing in the fence. Everyone seems to be screaming. Fat Dave crawls unnoticed back towards the guest house. He leans on a fence post for support and gets to his feet. He limps towards the door, looking over his shoulder. The goons are still oblivious to his escape. He makes it into the guest house and locks the door, hoping that there aren't more of them waiting inside. Mrs. Randall is still sprawled across the floor. He checks for signs of breathing. Hampton is swinging wildly at them with a cosh through a hole in the fence. His cronies are trying to lift out a fence panel. Crockett picks up a discarded milk bottle and throws it through the gap in the fence. The bottle explodes on Solis's face and he falls against the fence screaming. Ryan is behind Glenn and Mark, their sleeves flapping wildly as they rain punches on Solis. until he falls back and crashes onto the ground. Ryan tries to see what happened to Dave. He dares to get closer to the hole in the fence, then jumps back. "Dave's gone!" shouts Ryan. "He must have gone back inside." "Let's get out of here," shouts Phil, running down the alley. "Follow me." They rush after him down the alley, doing a right at the end. They can see the street in front of them. The goons can be heard smashing through the fence and tearing after them. They sprint to the front of the guest house. "Where the fuck is Pilchard?" screams Phil, standing under the orange glow of a street light. The door to New Roses opens and Fat Dave limps out, blood dripping from his mouth. "Let's get out of here." The van comes screeching down the street, lights blazing at full beam. Hampton and Lamoureux charge towards them. Pilchard mounts the curb and tries to run them over. Hampton jumps over a low wall into a guest house front garden. The wing mirror catches Lamoureux on the shoulder so hard that the glass shatters, sending him crashing to the floor. Pilchard swerves and comes to a grinding halt in front of them. They slide the door open and clamber in with hearts racing. Glenn treads on an empty beer bottle and falls on top of Ryan. "Fuck it!" "Everyone in?" shouts Pilchard, taking a quick head count. "Right, let's get the fuck out of here."